Hello, Evelyne.
Hi, Tatiana.
It's so cool to see you here, my intensity sister.
That's for sure. We are intensity sisters, and I really look forward to making what that means very, very clear to everyone.
Exactly, exactly. So, Evelyn, you are making such a big impact in the world, and your journey is fascinating. And I would say it has been very intense, moving from being Madonna impersonator to being on BBC, working with top leaders, handling many challenges and also in your personal life and shining through that.
Yes, thank you. We try. So the journey summarized, I think, is yes. So my background is performing and art, and actually, I'm a singer-songwriter and a comedian and an actress. And being an artist is not always the easiest path. So I became most known as Europe's #1 Madonna impersonator. So it was a way of channeling my not you would call it my intensity, but also my range, my talent, my lust for being big and impactful into a format that people could handle. And that's actually I find it
Mm.
quite fascinating because when Evelyn goes on a stage and just rocks out, it feels a bit awkward, almost
Mhm.
like, who do you think you are? But when I put on Madonna's costume, then it all made sense. And people were like, oh, wow, she's amazing. And I'm like, well, if I walked like that into your office, you'd just think this woman is
Mhm.
mad. So there's an interesting way of using formats to package intensity. We can talk about that if that's relevant. And coaching has been another wonderful format for me to um, use and utilize all this the range of emotion and experience that I've had the pleasure of having, and the way that I love to connect with especially more complex characters, because I love depth, I love nuance. I'm one of these people that men say, oh my god, you're so complicated, why can't you just be simple too? And I will now correct them and say, because I'm not simple, I am a beautiful complex human. And I will surround myself with people who appreciate that, not criticize, not judge that. But I know that for many women, that really still is quite a thing. And so that interest has really taken me quite far into the world of coaching and leadership development, because the higher your role, the more important it is that you really gain mastery and ownership of your, again, what Tatiana calls intensity, but of your range, of your multifacetedness, because you will burn out if you're just playing one role, your one trick pony, which you are not.
Mhm.
So I come in to really help leaders liberate their full presence, and presence, executive presence,
Mhm.
impact. Those are words we love to use. What do they even mean? They mean to be free and to dare to show more of yourself than you possibly thought possible, and have the courage to open your mouth when maybe a year or two ago you thought this was going to be devastation. But actually,
Mhm.
this is what's making the room move. This is what's making things shift. So yes,
Mhm.
here we are. And then
Yeah, I
yeah.
love that, Evelyn, because for me, intensity is actually energy. It's certain energy which comes sometimes, like, when somebody is present in a room. Like, I remember the story when I was in one room, and when I worked in the city, and I thought I didn't say much. I thought I introduced my investment banking team, and I walked out of this meeting thinking, "Oh my gosh, Tatiana, you really was so unnoticed there." And next thing I know, when I come to the desk, somebody calls the desk, and it's the head of that hedge fund saying, "Oh my gosh, Tatiana is so dominating." And I thought, this is so interesting. How did this happen with me only being in a room? And what
Mm,
you said is how to channel your bigness in a way that makes real impact. That's for me, I think many of our clients would love to know that. How to, like, the intensity, it's a range, it's a life force energy. And
mm.
when it comes from fear, then it can burn us down or the world down. When it comes from this love and embracing what we bring,
Mm-hmm.
then that can create real impact. So I loved what you said about channeling, how to channel that bigness. So what would you recommend,
Oh,
on a
yeah, I've got a 3-step process and a blueprint that I'm going to send everybody after the call. Just DM me one word and of course, it's not one step. It's not a 3-step system. And look at that. We have a wonderful comment there. That's also exciting. You can read that while I answer your question. I talked about channeling it through a format that makes sense. And what I'm very aware of is that when people are interested in challenging their bigness to make sense, they're already coming from a fear. They generally don't come from the loving place and going, oh, you know what would be wonderful if I could do. No, they're coming from shit. I've been burnt big time. So I just need to make sure that I'm safe here because I don't want to get in trouble anymore. And so I refuse to give you tips to shrink because I'm here to bring people out. Now, when we dare to bring it out, then we can see what's the bow we want to tie around that. But first, we need to unfold and unleash and, dare I say, unhinge.
So basically, move what I'm here is, and here you are a performer, uh, moving from performance to connection and impact. So
Yes.
like from it's me who has to be in my bigness to what message do I have to, what message does my heart desire that
Ooh,
I does my
well,
heart desire for me to communicate right now
yes,
in this
that's
meeting surrounded by 10 middle-aged men.
yeah, for example. And let's have a quick word on this whole idea of performance to connection. Yes, and yet you are a performer. I'm also a fierce stand for performance. So ChatGPT, as there's all our best friend, right? My ChatGPT and I, we're having a lot of discussions because it always wants to suggest that not performance, connection, not performance, authenticity. And I'm like, oi, I am a performer. I love performing. What's wrong with performing? So being in your bigness, if your bigness includes being a bit of a show pony, which mine does, why is that wrong? I
Yeah.
say no more. In my world, performing is completely okay. And for people in women and men in corporate settings, performing means, oh, I'm not being myself. I'm just doing it so that, or like people say, I'm just acting it. So it's not really me. Okay. So what we want is this authentic. But what does that even mean? Because you're not in a natural environment. You're not in a natural environment at work because you're not at home in your living room. You are in a setting that demands certain things of you. So it gets complicated. Therefore, I loved what you just said. If you can bring it to your heart, wonderful. Now, my clients often come to me and then say, well, but I'm scared. I'm afraid they won't like me. I'm afraid that there'll be consequences. What if they think I'm stupid? You have that with women a lot, right? I don't want to make a fool of myself. This is huge. The fear of humiliation is massive. So we need to work with that first. And
Yeah.
it's not a 3-step process, but it is probably a step. But anyway, it's not just like, oh, just focus on your heart. If you can do that, amazing. But if you find that difficult, then maybe we need to talk a little bit deeper around what's in the way, and be genuine with that. Because I'm a little done with just do that.
Yeah.
If
That's right. And connecting with the heart looks very different for different people, right?
true,
And what I normally ask the people to do, we all in our life had moments when we took a leap of faith, right? And I say, remember that moment when you took a leap of faith, when everybody was saying what a stupid thing to do, and
yeah,
you actually went and did it. And in that moment, you had what I called intuitive trust in self, ITS, I call it, right? And how did it feel in your body in that moment? This ITS, right? So if we connect with that one, like I remember for me leaving, you know, a visa in Germany and a stable job, and a right to permanent residence, which was a huge deal at that time when the tanks were in the streets in Moscow, and giving it all up and becoming a student in the United States. That was a leap of faith, and I had this intuitive trust in myself. And so did you in many moments, and so do my clients.
Yes, I have a yes and. Can I bring a yes and? Because we like it intense. I would want to check whether when they had that leap of faith and that intuitive trust in self, whether they felt they were rewarded by it, by life. Because what I found, I've had lots of those moments where I did the thing that people said was impossible. For example, leaving, I was in New York and I was just offered this major record deal, $60,000 to fund my first album, but it didn't feel right. And it smelled a bit, I don't know. Anyway, I escaped. I just basically fled New York, very silently, very quickly, to be with the man I loved here in England, and started from scratch, knowing absolutely nobody except the man that I loved. And we moved to Brighton, where I became a Brighton housewife. And I thought, because I took such a beautiful leap of faith and followed my heart and followed my love, that life would reward me with a record deal, some financial, something. And you know what happened? Nothing. I was on my own and I was very poor, and I became quite desperate, actually. And I've had this experience quite a few times where I did the really brave thing and afterwards actually landed in a way flat on my face. So before I would ask a woman or a man how that felt, I would check, like, do you feel that was a positive experience? Because some of us have been burnt by
And,
it.
and of course, the leap of faith would go. It's this moments of positive experience, and that's also understanding that sometimes we are in that place, and in a moment we land on our face, as you said, and still taking a wider perspective. What like finding that silver lining? Would you be able to have all the beautiful moments in your life without that experience, Evelyne?
Exactly. No.
Even exactly, right?
I
So because
always had to do what my heart wanted. There was no, for me, it felt like there was no choice. Now that's also a bit intense, because I remember people saying there's always a choice. I'm like, no, you don't understand. If my heart says something and I don't follow it, I can't even, I have to. My energetic guidance is so strong. My spiritual rebellion is so strong. No words of rational advice can hold to them. I will do the thing.
right, and you see it. That's why it's like, for me, one big part of healthy intensity is this ITS, and the second one is detachment from outcome. And those are actually parts of so-called, what I call, nothing to prove energy, because we have to be detached from outcome. For whatever reason, we have this belief that we can control life. Who knows what would have happened if you accepted that deal in New York? We don't know. The mind, the brain tries to say, oh my gosh, if I accepted that deal and I would be now a famous singer and this and that, when you were like on your face down in Brighton, right? But it's not how it works. We are not in control. We have to accept the reality of making the certain decisions and certain choices, and realizing that there is something beautiful in that, and then we can always make next choices, right?
So I think this is where the value of coaches like you and me too come in, because what I'm hearing you say is you need to be trusting and courageous enough to take that step and to understand and to accept that we're not in control. See, the same, to answer the question you asked earlier, is true for when we want to take our bigness and bring it across. Do we know beforehand that it will make sense in this or that format? No, we don't. I just had to try. In my case, it meant I, a young woman back then, still now, but anyway, a young woman back then from Germany, had to take that leap of faith, putting on a costume of the most famous woman in pop history, singing her song in her tone of voice, sounding almost like her, but not quite because I'm not her, looking similar to her, but not quite because I'm not her, and I didn't have that muscle mass, and prancing. Is it prancing or prancing? Anyway, walking like on the stage, giving it my whole energy. Who does she think she is in my head somewhere, because I'm human, and see how it goes? There was no guarantee beforehand that it would go well.
Yeah.
Now that I've got all the accolades and I can say I've traveled the world and I had bodyguards and I've been on TV and a cover of magazines, we all go, clearly she must have been great. but not always. And I didn't start out that way. And at some point, I just had to decide I'll move forward, not backwards. Because the last thing you want to see on a stage anywhere is someone kind of looking like Madonna, feeling ashamed of themselves like that.
Not Madonna. Yes.
That's the definition of cringe, isn't it? And so that's the same for speaking, because sometimes people wonder, like, how does being a Madonna impersonator relate to being an impactful speaker? I'm leading a multi-billion-pound company. Like, what can you tell me about that? It's about the leap of faith, about the confidence, about holding your own when you personally might be a little bit afraid or a little bit insecure in that moment, because the responsibility seems so big and it seems like to fill really big boots. And no matter where you are in your life, if you're going to your next level, it always feels like you're filling really big boots. And what we need is that deep breath. And then this, I'm doing this. And then
Yeah.
do this really crazy thing. And I recommend that we practice that. And I recommend that we find out what those embarrassing worst case scenarios are in a safe environment. For example, I was speaking to another colleague the other day on a German Instagram live. So nobody here will know what it was unless you speak German and you saw it. But I shared that
I speak German, but I didn't see
you speak
it.
German, but you didn't see it. So I used to be really, I love improvisation, but I used to be quite terrified of it because I have a very imaginative yet one-track mind. And so when I had the opportunity of saying the first thing that comes into my mind would go off into realms that would be inappropriate in a corporate context, i.e. sex. And it really embarrassed me at first because I was young and inexperienced and all that good stuff. So my belief was, do not let me loose, because you don't know what's coming out of my head is probably going to go somewhere wildly inappropriate, or I don't even know that it's inappropriate, and it is inappropriate. Oh my God, what did I do? And I now know that this is an issue that many people face, especially when they have big visions, big thoughts. They are afraid that they're getting it wrong. It doesn't have to just be in a context of, it can be anything else. So how do we work with that? We work with that in a safe environment where we let you go wrong. Like when we work together, you will do lots of things that are the horror if they were in public, but we're in a
Yes.
safe space, so we get them out. And then you've done them, you're kind of more used to it. Then we can take it a step further, but we need to loosen the whole system, because most of my clients are so tight. They can't go big. They can't allow more bigness because you're just trying to hold yourself together like this all the time.
Yes. And you know what you said, confidence. And I actually would say it's not confidence that we need, because confidence, of course, always comes after, right? That's why the first step in that system is being present to self and present to others. And actually, it's taking those steps of actions. And you are saying you're providing the environment for people to take those courageous steps of action in a safe environment, so that their nervous system get used to that. And
Correct.
that's what coaching generally is great for, because after people had a conversation about what's happening in their life with somebody from outside of their life, their nervous system almost expands and develops a range and capacity to deal with a challenging situation. And I love that for the ability to be in a room and on the bigness.
You just summarized this so perfectly well. And it always depends who we're speaking to, which words we're using, right? Because confidence, personally, I don't like that word anymore, because it's like, what do you even mean? So we use the word presence, but you have the same issue with the word presence, that some people will go, what do you actually mean by that? And how do I do
have a
it?
formula for that. I have a formula for that.
Ooh, do you now? Okay, shall we hear the formula?
So for me, the formula starts, first of all, in the center, it's a clarity of the intention. So if I'm being present somewhere, whether it's in a conversation with my husband or in a boardroom, what is
Mhm,
my intention right now? There, you know.
mhm, mhm,
Okay. So and once I'm clear on that, then okay, am I capable of courage? So because it is going to be uncomfortable, it is going to be stressful if it's something I have to communicate in a new for me environment, or
mhm,
I have to ask my husband that, for example, I have to go away for 2 weeks on my own, right? Or I want to, right? So, for example,
mhm.
courage, right? So the second word is courage, and the third word is curiosity. So being really, really curious about what is the perspective of another person to the
Mhm.
message that I give, and being
Okay.
curious to the reactions as well
So
without going in a self-judgment.
that is fascinating, and I love how you broke it down. When I speak about presence, I speak about an embodied presence.
That's true.
So as much I love the idea of the intention because that still rings true even in the embodied space. But my formula would be having your feet on the floor, feeling connected to your breath, and being okay with not knowing what's next. And in my world, finding the joy in that because I'm a little adventurer and I'm a little I just you see the mischief. I love this not knowing and that we don't know this could go really bad, but I almost love it. I've learned to love and embrace the awkward moments. That's a top tip.
Yes.
But again, we can speak about this here as an idea. It really happens in the room, and nervous system expansion is a thing. It's real. The difference between someone who's experienced, for example, on stage or in a boardroom in a high intensity, high impact situation, and someone who is not, is that their nervous system is able to hold more sensation.
Hmm.
So if you're not trained and you go on a stage for the first time because you've been asked to do the keynote, or maybe it's even the 10th time, but you've had not the best experiences that way, you're not used to holding those sensations that come up. And it is freaking intense when attention is on you
Yes.
versus a stage hog like me who just loves being in the center of attention if I'm in the right space of mind. I genuinely love it. I like the sensation. I like the intensity of that because I've learned to be with it. And I just said if I'm in the right state of mind, because when my insecurity is kicking in, then I really don't want to be in the center of attention,
Yes.
right?
And that's what also important about knowing self, in what part, we all exist in four worlds, like mental, emotional, physical, and energetic, right? So in what part of the world would the nervous system go into toxic intensity, over almost over functioning in one world and forgetting the other three? For me, it is emotional world, for example. If something, some big rejections came where I thought it's a yes, then emotions can rise despite all this huge work. And
Mm,
it's expanding this ability of the nervous system to handle that. And yes, we go to the gym, we exercise the muscles. In the same way, we need to exercise our nervous system,
that's right.
train it to be in those intense situations. And that's what I totally see that many of the leaders would really benefit, and being in that situation with you and practice this public speaking, this
Yeah.
bold speech in a difficult situation.
Going to the impact gym.
Exactly, going to
Well,
the impact team. So where so today we're going to finish a little bit earlier, and before we do, where can I disappointment, because life is intense, and so
and fast.
and fast. So where can the listeners find you? Because I know you have so many insights, and it's not like a list, it's actually lived experience of expanding and grow in this nervous system. Tell
Yes.
us how can people connect with you?
Where can you find me? I live on LinkedIn part time, so you find me on LinkedIn, Evelyne Brink. I have a newsletter called Mic Drop Leadership. You find me on my website, brinkcoaching.com. You find me on on Instagram. If you are into funny, if you're into the funny side of things, I'm creating actually quite a lot of humorous content now around the topics. And you can email me, of course, hello@brinkcoaching.com. And it's brink as in on the brink of success or impact. Oh, hello@brinkcoaching.com. So you can always connect with me there. And you're right, I offer a range of services and insights. Lots of them are free, so feel free to get to know me and then come and jump in the gym with me.
Exactly. And before we go, Evelyne, if what is one advice, one step you would give to our listeners? For example, I'm even thinking about my own daughter being on trading floor right now as we
Ooh.
speak, and being asked to do the stock speeches on weekly basis, in front of very senior people. So,
Mhm.
what would be one advice would you give to someone who is about to go and have to and having to make a big presentation
Mm.
internally,
But
which
only
really
one advice. I want to have half an hour for it. The biggest break that we hit when we are giving a presentation to a bunch of authority people, well, where we get stuck is that we are afraid of how they see us.
uh-huh.
I call that being selfish. In that moment,
Yes,
you're just about you. What are they thinking about me? What if they don't like me? What if I get it wrong? What if they hate me? What if they think I'm dumb? It's always these thoughts will be looping, 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 looping. Those are the wrong questions.
yes,
So the tip is stop focusing on yourself and go into service. This is a great opportunity to go into service. My prayer in the green room in New York when I did my solo show was let your light flow through me. Let your light flow through me. And you don't have to have a prayer like that, but you can focus on what is it that I'm here to give them? What do they
yeah,
need today?
right.
What do they need from me? What can I give them? That's your question. Answer that with your speaking. Boom.
Exactly. Let's move from self-orientation to orientation on the message and on service.
That's it.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. It was so much fun to be here with you. And thank you to our listeners.
Thank you so much for watching and listening. And next time we'll do 1.5 hours straight through because you want it, right?
All the best.
Thank you, you too.